Hello folks and welcome to Paddock Pass on the third day of this second and final pre-season test for 2017. The sun has returned to the circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, and I'm delighted to say that down here in pit lane with me is Mr. Steve Matchett. Steve, hello chap.
Hello.
Are you enjoying testing?
I always enjoy testing. Testing for me was one of the real thrills of being involved in Formula One. Those long hours of nothing happening, interspersed by those very frantic brief periods when the car actually goes out on track. But that was 25 years ago, and what catches my attention here, Will, is that everybody on the whole is extremely reliable. On the whole is a caveat for McLaren not being very reliable.
Yeah, not very reliable at all. Who has piqued your interest? Who's doing something interesting this week?
I'm a big believer in what is good for Ferrari is good for Formula One. It's been a long while since Ferrari have really had a car to take a fight to Mercedes, and I suspect that this car will be the best so far to take the fight to Mercedes.
Well, the fans would certainly agree with you. Massive Ferrari banner up there in the grandstands, and certainly the times, the reliability that they've shown over the past 7 days looks good. The car out on track, though, looks skittish at times, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, I know you want me to agree with that.
No, you don't have to.
No, I do agree with you. It does look a little bit skittish, especially from the front end. Probably a little bit more downforce needed from that new front wing. I think the rear of the car is working well. Probably the rear of the car is working much better than the front of the car. So a little bit more work on those cascade elements. I think they're in good shape though, really, seriously.
It's a very intricate design on that car, incredibly unique, the very high, wide side pods that they've got above the line of the suspension.
You know, for years, Ferrari have been, I'm going to use the word obsessed with clearing any blockage away from their radiator ducts. And that was one of the reasons why, and this might get very close to me when you hold it. That was one of the reasons why they used pull rod suspension for so long, was to get the pull rod suspension away from the radiator ducts. There was only a tiny aero advantage in that, but it's something Ferrari seemed very insistent in doing. And you notice now, when you see a shot head-on of the Ferrari, that front suspension completely clears that rather odd, rather ugly-looking radiator inlet. They're very narrow as well, those rad inlets.
They really are. We're talking about people taking the fight to Mercedes this year. Obviously, we all hope that Ferrari does. The other team is Red Bull Racing, but a totally different design philosophy between Ferrari and Red Bull. Ferrari, very intricate, so many elements all over that car. Yeah. Red Bull, positively simple in comparison. Yeah,
well, Adrian Newey. I think Adrian Newey is still, for me, the best aerodynamicist the sport's ever seen.
Here is the Red Bull coming down here. And it really is so simple compared to that Ferrari. I mean, as you say, Adrian Newey, one of the best aerodynamicists this sport has ever seen. He rarely gets it wrong. Does that mean that everybody who's gone intricate has got it wrong?
I don't think so. I'll tell you what, I must say, it's an absolute coincidence that Red Bull car just came down the pit lane, and we never arranged that. No. We did not arrange that to happen, right? No, Adrian Newey, very good. Loves very simple, clean lines. It's one of his features. You look all the way back, really, to perhaps the greatest of his designs in my time was the FW14B, FW15, 92, 93. They were very simple designs too. And I think in terms of aero flow, that's Adrian's style, is to keep the car very neat. You see a lot of these add-on extras on this generation of cars, the 17 cars. Especially around the barge board area, behind the front suspension and forward of the radiator ducts. They've opened up that area a lot, and there's a lot of new barge board designs around there. The question is, how effective are they? Probably not that effective, but it's given the aerodynamicists something to play with, which is why you're seeing so many iterations of cooling ducts, example, and those T-wings across the top. All of that sort of stuff's being tested out here. Whether or not it's very effective, well, we'll have to get down to Melbourne and see, I suppose. And
Red Bull are the team pushing to have those shark fins and those T-wings outlawed by the time we get to Australia, or certainly shortly afterwards. What do you make of the shark fins? What do you make of the T-wings?
Well, I would suggest the reason that Red Bull are so keen to get them removed is because they've got their car to work quite well without them, so you want to remove any advantage you possibly can from your rivals. So it's just the nature of the beast. And the same with those T-wing elements. But talking to the engineers in the paddock over the last few days, those T-wings are not just flow modifiers trying to help flow to the rear wing. They're definitely producing positive points of downforce on the car. You know, they are genuinely assisting with downforce production. So the rest of the guys are going to be very reluctant to take them off the cars. I talked to Charlie Whiting, who was on the plane coming over from England to Barcelona. And I know this is the idea of the purists would love to have those shark fins removed and the T-wings removed from the cars, and I asked Charlie that very question. He seemed fairly sure that that would be a very difficult thing to do this year because you would need unanimous agreement from all the teams, and we know how difficult that is to achieve in Formula One. But also, they could be removed on the grounds of a safety feature or an unsafe construction. There's always that caveat in the regulations, but it's going to be a matter of watch this space, because if we see one of them break, that will give the FIA permission to say, aha, see?
We told you.
Unsafe construction, pull them off the cars. So, again, let's see what happens for the rest of this test and also for the opening sessions in Melbourne. We know the sports governing body, I'm fairly sure, does not want them on the car. Okay, it's an area of the regulations which opened up an unintended consequence of these new regulations. And of course, as soon as one aerodynamicist and engineer sees that, everybody sees it up and down the pit lane, but nobody dares say anything to anybody else just in case nobody else has spotted it. But of course, they all have spotted it. I'm sure they'll be off. It may not be this year. We may have to wait till next year, but they'll come off.
Williams, from early on, was running a double T-wing, one sort of at the midpoint on that shark fin, one high up, and they've been running consistently well. The car is fast, the car is consistent. Felipe Massa turning 168 laps on the second day of the test. Is it just low fuel runs for them, do you think, or have they actually got a shot of returning to podium form?
I think they have. It would be very easy to say, double check the amount of ballast on the car and put the car back on the scales. But I don't know. Williams do seem to have made a big turnaround with their car. It can't be just that little extra points of downforce from that T-wing. The car is running reliably. But that is the thing from this test, is I'm just amazed at how reliable the equipment are. We do tend to say that every year in the past few years, right? When you go back 10, 15 years, if you got one race run out of a car in a test, you were doing very, very well. Well, these guys are turning 2-3 race distances a day, right? Look at Ferrari's performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we've got to wrap this up very, very quickly. No time really to talk about McLaren. I think we've talked enough about them this week and the problems that they're having, very, very much publicised. But it's always difficult to tell anything out of testing. As you say, you don't know who's running what in terms of ballasts and fuel levels. But who do you think is looking the best going to Australia?
Oh boy, well, it's really hard to not say Mercedes. Yeah. The car looks terrific, it sounds terrific, it looks very consistent and in terms of its handling. And you just highlighted the slightly twitchy nature of the Ferrari. Mercedes don't have that. So, I'm going to have to say once again, I think Mercedes are going to be the team to catch, but perhaps that's no surprise, because when you have a new raft of regulations, but you're such a well-funded team with such brilliant aerodynamicists and engineers, is it any surprise that Mercedes still come out with a great design? Probably not. And as we say, with Adrian Newey designing the Red Bull, look out for those guys. And look out for Ferrari. I would suggest it's going to be Mercedes leading the field with Red Bull and Ferrari swapping 2-3, something like that. It's going to be a cool year, I think.
And an interesting midfield as well. Thank you very much, Steve, for your time. Always much appreciated. Let's hear from a few of the drivers now, with just one day left of pre-season testing after things conclude here today. Welcome back to Paddock Pass here in Barcelona. Now, as Steve Matchett was just saying, if one car has caught the attention over testing so far in terms of giving us something promising for taking the battle to reigning world champions Mercedes-AMG Petronas in 2017, it has been the effort of the Scarlet car, that of Scuderia Ferrari. A really interesting design, and it seems to be both fast and reliable. This morning, Sebastian Vettel set the fastest time we've seen in pre-season testing, and that was with laps which he was setting purple sectors, Sector 1 and Sector 2, and then backing right off through Sector 3, and yet still setting those incredibly fast times. But is it all it's cracked up to be? What does Sebastian Vettel think of the car that's underneath him for 2017? It's a productive couple of weeks for you testing. How well prepared do you feel for Australia? How on target is the team?
Well, I would say not bad. I think we had a decent amount of days. Spent quite some time on the track. I think I would have loved to do more laps, but we still have 1.5 days to go. Obviously lost some time yesterday. I had a little off this morning, cost us a little bit of time, but overall I think we are reasonably happy. But for sure the benchmark is very high that Mercedes is setting the last couple of years, and also this test again starting of this year. So I think we know that we have to improve. On the other hand, we're still early days in this car's generation, so we'll see where we are in a couple of weeks.
Mercedes, Red Bull have said that you guys look like the team to beat. Are they right?
Well, I hope so, but right now it doesn't matter. If we are the fastest here, you don't gain no point for that. So I think people tend to look at the timesheet at the end of the day. Of course, it's important to be somewhere up there, but there's nothing to win from that. So our target is obviously to go through our program, go through our stuff, which was a little bit behind, but we are making good progress. The car is making sense, the numbers are making sense. So let's see where we can be.
I'm going to say there's a quiet confidence to Sebastian Vettel, certainly an assuredness to him, without giving too much away or stating that he believes he can win. There seems certainly something in him that is positive going into this season, that he can, and Ferrari can, take the fight to Mercedes. Of course, we won't know until we arrive in Melbourne, but if you can tell anything from testing, it's usually from someone's body language, and Sebastian's body language certainly wasn't as dismissive as it has been in years gone by. We have been speaking about this a lot this week. If there is one place where there is dismissive body language, it's down here at McLaren Honda. You probably can't see behind me because it's a little distance away, but Zach Brown arrived today having a chat there with Eric Boulier about just how badly things are going. The car grinding to a halt not once but twice today here in Barcelona. Last night, Fernando Alonso coming out with some very strong words saying that the car has no reliability and no power, and has called on Honda to do a better job. He said that he was asked, how's the car? Are you able to go full throttle in the corners yet? And Fernando said, I'm full throttle in every corner. So I think that gives an indication of just how bad things are, but don't hear it from me. Hear it from a guy who is making his full F1 debut this year for McLaren Honda. Here are the thoughts of Stoffel Vandoorne. Stoffel, it's not been the perfect preparation for your full debut season in Formula One. How difficult is it for you and for the team to have endured a fortnight as you just have here in Spain?
No, it's not been an ideal 4 days of testing. That's that's sure. We're aware that we have some problems, and we've not covered the mileage that we would have liked to do over the past 4 days of testing. But I feel positive. I feel very good in the car, confident when I go out and push the car. So it's a good feeling to be out on track. I feel 100% ready for Melbourne, even though I haven't covered the amount of laps that I would have liked in winter testing. That's for sure. So we know there's a lot of work to do. We're working very hard as a team together to make the most of it. And hopefully we come to Melbourne with some updates.
How difficult has it been with the problems you've experienced with the power unit to actually get a handle on any deficiencies which might exist with the chassis itself?
Well, it's not ideal, because everything is in the end is linked together. We had a lot of engine problems, obviously, over the last days, which were not ideal, and have cut our running a bit short. So there's still a lot we have to learn about. That's for sure. And we're pushing very hard as a team. We know that we have to take some actions, and hopefully we have some improvements for Melbourne.
Melbourne should be a big occasion for you, your full proper debut in Formula One. But will it be more of a test session for McLaren? As you said, you've still got so much that you need to learn.
Well, in a way, I think it might be a little bit. Yes, we haven't obviously covered everything we've done here in testing, but we'll go out there and definitely try to make the most of it. We'll have to wait and see.
What are the objectives then for Melbourne? Do you know yet? Can you know yet?
I think it's wrong to put any objectives at the moment. I think if we see progress, that will be a very good thing for us.
I think it's clear to see there is some frustration in Stoffel Vandoorne, although he's doing well to keep it under wraps. Is there light at the end of the tunnel for McLaren? Of course there is. The one piece of good news for all power unit manufacturers this season is that the much maligned engine token system of upgrades has been thrown out, and with that there is now the possibility for all engine and power unit providers to make updates, to make improvements throughout the season. So there is still hope that McLaren and Honda can overcome this difficult start to the year. So to the times of the day, we've spoken to and about Sebastian Vettel already. That lap he set just before lunch, a 1:19.024, was the fastest of the day, and he did 156 laps in total, which takes him well over 300 for the week that we've so far seen. Felipe Massa that day, that first day, ran 168, which was the same number as Sebastian Vettel. That Ferrari is looking fast, it's looking consistent, most importantly, it is looking reliable. Lewis Hamilton, second today, 1:19.352, just ran the afternoon session and did 52 laps, and in third place, the very impressive Esteban Ocon in the Force India, 137 laps today to add to the 143 laps that he did on the first day. So he's really putting in the laps and showing very well. Danny Kvyat was fourth, Magnussen fifth, Ricciardo sixth. Red Bull Racing seemingly losing some pace today, but as we understand it, not quite cranking that Renault engine up to full on their race runs this afternoon. Stoffel Van Dorn, we spoke to him, despite two failures out on track, still posted the seventh fastest lap of the day, then Bottas 8th, Verline 9th, and Jolyon Palmer, who had a stop towards the end of the day, in 10th place. 12th and 13th pace today, a good sort of 5 seconds off the pace, were actually Felipe Massa and Lance Stroll. I had a good chat to Lance this afternoon. He's done with his testing now for 2017, and he feels happy, he feels confident about going to Australia, which he'll do almost immediately to get acclimatised and accustomed to the time change for his F1 debut. So that's it from day 3. Just 1 day remains of pre-season testing for 2017. If anybody's got any uncertainties, time is running out for them to iron them out. We'll see you tomorrow, but for now, from Barcelona, goodbye.